All right, welcome everyone to July's second pub meeting. Under Portland City Code and state law, the Portland Utility Board is holding this meeting electronically. Board members and relevant city staff are attending remotely, electronically, or by phone, and the city has made it available for the public to listen to the audio broadcasting of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and the public will have an opportunity to provide comments during the public comment portion of the agenda. And you can also provide written testimony to the board by emailing utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. Pub believes and acts upon anti-racist principles. In our meeting spaces and interactions with Pub, while every person has the right to share their personal perspective, we do stand against wrongful conduct, particularly any conduct that is targeted towards people who have been made vulnerable by systemic inequities. And this means stepping up as a community when there's wrongful conduct and fostering a space of learning and growth. And the way that we do that is we speak up and we speak out. Each person is empowered to maintain the culture of the Portland Utility Board, and we will focus on the impacted individual or population, condemning the conduct, not the person.
My name's Amy Archer-Masters, and I'll quickly run through the meeting guidelines. Please state your name before you speak, and if appropriate, who you're addressing or that you're addressing the group. The chat box is only viewable by me, so please limit any chats to technical and logistical issues, including signing up for public comment or asking for technical assistance or reminding us if you have been waiting to speak and not been called on. The raise hand is primarily used by board members. I may lower your hand once you begin speaking just to maintain the flow of conversation. During public comment periods, the public may raise your hand and you'll be called on when appropriate. If you're connecting by phone, you may need to press *9 to raise your hand. Videos may be turned on when speaking if desired. It is not required. Please mute your microphone when you're speaking or when you're not speaking. If you're connecting by phone, you may need to press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Public comment will be taken early in the meeting. During the public comment period, you can sign up through chat with me or raise your hand during the public comment period. It's also available just prior to any formal board vote after a motion has been made and seconded by board members. As mentioned, the meeting is being recorded. I'll pass it back to you, Robin, for a quick review of the agenda.
All right, so we have a full agenda today. We'll get to hear briefly from our new Deputy City Administrator. We'll have a few brief updates for the board, and then we do get to hear from the Bureau of Environmental Services on the Stormwater Management Manual update. Looks like there is some public comment time available, so we'll engage that to see if it's a good move for us to make a public comment. And then we're going to finalize our beliefs, values, and anti-racist principles statement. All right, so this is the time when pub members raise your hand if you have any disclosures of communications to put out there before we start. All right, not seeing anyone rushing to jump in, so we can move on to our next portion. All right, so as you know, part of the charter change has BES and Portland Water Bureau under a new services area called Public Works. And as of the 1st of this month, we have a new deputy city administrator who looks over Public Works. And we just want to thank them for coming today and making us a priority in their first month in this position. And just wanted to give them the floor in order to share a little bit about themselves, as well as what they envision for this role and working with the utilities. So please welcome Priya.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you all for inviting me to meet with you. I'm Priya Dhanapal, and I use she/her pronouns, and I'm honored to serve as the first Deputy City Administrator for Public Works. I began my tenure with the city 2 weeks ago, and when I was told this meeting is coming up, I wanted to take the opportunity to meet with everybody. Prior to coming to the city, I served as a Deputy Public Works Director for Clark County, Washington, and prior to that, I held positions with the city of Beaverton and worked as a consultant for multiple utilities across the West Coast for several years. And now I'm delighted to get to work with Bob. Your role as an oversight body to two of the largest bureaus of the city of Portland and the essential services that people depend on every minute of every day, it cannot be overstated. Your work matters to me and to every Portlander. And I also know that I'm joining at the same time that Mali, Kyle, and Lauren. So welcome to the newest members, and I look forward to beginning my journey at the same time as your volunteer terms. There's so much that I hope to engage with you during my tenure, but today I like to start with my priorities for public works service area, and I invite more conversation from you all in the future. So my priorities, they fall under two categories broadly. One is effectively and responsibly transitioning from this form of government and effectively leading the continuity of our critical utility services. I've been hired to deliver on the reform that Portland voters overwhelmingly demanded in the charter change, and I take this role very seriously. I will support and empower our Bureau employees through the city's charter transition process. Public Works Service Area houses the city's largest home to frontline workers, dump truck drivers, engineers, data and researchers, as well as field scientists. And I like to see a diverse workforce where employees receive the resources they need to succeed and thrive. I will be leading the bureaus to put the people in center focus so they can continue to do the great work that they're doing. My focus will also to be for achieving innovations, creative solutions, and new ways of improving public work services in collaboration with Water, BES, and PBOT and our community. There are some exciting new developments in the utility world and fresh perspectives that I think the bureaus can benefit from. And creativity, I think, should not come at higher costs. So I will be calling on the bureaus to bring the best thinking on how we can enhance the way in which we deliver services. I will also be focusing on targeted financial assistance to communities' most vulnerable water users to maintain access and ensure the public health benefits of a safe water supply. And I'd like to ask PUB for your help and guidance on how we can approach this. I hear that PUB has been on the forefront of advising our utilities to creatively address high bills for multifamily. So I welcome your help and guidance as we continue with this process. And my second priority, in the midst of all this change in government, the second bucket of my priorities fall under business continuity. So I bring my experience from my time in Beaverton, ushering in a change of government, and bring specific insight and expertise on how we manage a change as a utility. So for business continuity, for water, we will focus on efficient management of the mandated filtration and pipelines projects to improve the resilience of the water system and also to meet state and federal regulatory deadlines. We want to continue to meet the regulatory compliance and also improve emergency response while also working on technological upgrades like AMI and the WAMS water asset management system. For BES, the focus will be to deliver on the step improvements at Columbia Wastewater Treatment Plant and enhance the safety and the security. The plant has been historically uninvested in, and as the largest wastewater treatment plant in the state of Oregon, I will make sure that the major capital project to improve it is accomplished. And for both bureaus, we will continue to manage overall bureau budgets and expenses within the forecasted rates through careful planning, efficiencies, and staff management. And I know how vitally important this item is also to PUB. and I look forward to receiving your budget recommendations. And in this new form of government, I would encourage you to write your budget recommendations to me, the DCA for Public Works Service Area, and also the City Administrator, Mike Jordan, separate from and in addition to council. And finally, I think it's important for me to, as the DCA of Public Works, to ensure that this body is resourced and staffed appropriately so that you can continue to function at a high level. I understand there was uncertainty as to how all the advisory bodies would be arranged and whether this group would continue under the Public Works with the addition of PBOT. So the members of this group have been selected, subject areas, enthusiasm for water and the environment. And it's on your expertise you've developed that I will continue to rely upon. And I will be holding my staff, and I see them present here today, to a high standard that they will engage with this board on any major decisions, policy issues, and continue to engage with you on their entire life cycle of the budget proposals as well. And while the path to budget adoption has shifted, my bureaus will be expected to engage early and often and offer ample opportunity to make meaningful impacts on the budget proposals. And with that being said, I also know that there was a news article that came about a recent change or recent change in leadership for the Water Bureau. I want to say that I can't discuss specifics on the matter, but I want to ensure that the Public Works Service Area is committed to serving the community, and we remain committed to that. Our water staff are dedicated to maintaining the high standards and continuous service, and we have robust plans and experienced staff in place to ensure that our operations continue smoothly and that our projects and initiatives move forward without interruptions. And I'm here today to build a strong future, and I hope that this group is a part of the design for the vision of all our Public Works service area for all the 3 bureaus. And with that, I turn it back to you. I'm not sure if we have time for questions today, but I will be coming back to talk to you all in future discussions. And I hope to be a part of this, the discussions moving forward.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for, like I said, making us a priority in your first month, as well as coming before us and saying that you will invest in our expertise. We are here to work with you and alongside you to represent the public and Portland overall. And yeah, thank you once again for the work that you're doing. And with that, let's actually, I don't know that we'll have a question portion, but we will definitely be in ongoing contact with you with the work that we're doing. And with that, let's head to our public comment portion of the agenda. All right, Amy, has anyone submitted public comment beforehand?
I have not received anything in advance. So if you are in the room, please raise your hand and let us know if you wish to share any public comment.
All right, so I'm not hearing anything, so we can move on to the next topic. So board members, we just need to take a moment or so to review and approve the draft minutes of our last meeting. Please raise your hand or just shout out if there's anything that you need, that you think we need to edit on our minutes before they're approved. All right. Not seeing any hand raises, we will approve the draft minutes as they are. And actually, before I move on, were there any questions for the deputy administrator while we had her here? Didn't mean to rush past it if someone was really interested in making a statement or a comment to her. I see Karen Williams. Go ahead.
Thanks, Robin. Karen Williams, voting member. So first of all, I did want to express thanks for the thoughtfulness and the specificity that that Priya came with. She obviously, done some research and had some really specific things to say about us and to us. So I just appreciated that. But I would have asked a question about where watershed planning and watershed restoration fit in her BES priorities. I didn't hear anything specific mentioned about that. And I understand not everything can be a priority or nothing is, but I would have just liked to hear what some of her thoughts were on those aspects of BES's mission. But I can wait until the next meeting for that or another time.
Thank you, Karen. Robin, is it okay to address the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate your comments. I am still getting up to speed. It's been 2 weeks for me with the city, and I'm still getting up to speed on the different priorities for the bureaus. I will come back to you with more information on where that lies in the priority at our next discussion, either with me in person or sending a comment through one of my fellow directors representing me.
Thank you both for that.
Yeah, thank you. I just want Priya, thank you. I didn't realize you were still with us, so I would have not been quite so indirect in my in my question. But thanks for that.
All right. Any other comments or questions for Priya while we have them?
And often questions will come up in between meetings. So as always, feel free to send any questions my way and I will gather those and we can always route those directly through Priya and either prepare for a future communication where Priya or somebody will communicate with us in the future. So feel free to direct anything to me and we will coordinate.
I suppose just a very quick one. I just this is Kyle Chipman addressing Priya. I just want to say I'm just starting, but it was a very gracious introduction for yourself. It was wonderful reading your history as I was preparing for the meeting and some of the programs, the Purple Pipe program that you oversaw at Beaverton. And just thank you for addressing the board and for incorporating and involving us directly. So I'm excited to work with everyone and to work with the team. So thank you.
Very much looking forward to it.
All right, we're off to a good start. So thank you again, Priya, and thank you all the board members. Amy, there we go. So brief updates. Looks like our 3 new members are officially appointed by council, so that's wonderful. I hope it wasn't, if you attended the meeting, I hope it wasn't too nerve-wracking to be before council, as I find it's nerve-wracking to go before them personally. Amy, did you have any commentary on their appointment specifically, or no. Is it mostly just a congratulations and welcome to the team?
Just congratulations, and Kyle and Lauren were able to provide some talking points, so it went smoothly. So they did great and had that opportunity to speak to council directly. So thank you both. Melly was unable to attend because she was traveling, but they are officials, so that is great. The only other update, and I wanted to just flag this at the beginning of the meeting so that you all could do some thinking and we can circle back to it at the end of the meeting. As I had in the read ahead, and I just wasn't sure whether everybody would have a chance to look at it before the meeting, so I just wanted it to be tickling in your head, is that we've had some conversation about field trips. And so I just want you all to be thinking about interest level and time commitment. And so the last field trip that Pub had done was to one of the BES facilities. And so there was interest in attending a Water Bureau facility in this year. And so the options, there's many options because there's a lot of potential facilities to visit. And there had been interest in the past because it's been many years since Pub has visited Bull Run, but because of the location and how long it takes to get there, it is a full day event. And so they looked at availability and had a few potential dates, September 11th, 12th, or 13th, that would work for their staff. So I wanted to put that out there for folks to think about and just identify whether there was enough of a number of you that would be interested and available and able to commit a full day to a field trip to their facility on one of those days. And then there's a lot of other alternatives. So visiting Groundwater, Powell Butte, Washington Park, or their interstate operations and maintenance. So we can get more information about what some of that might look like and how long, a visit would be to a different facility. But I just wanted to kind of gauge interest and time commitment and availability that folks may have if we were going to visit, either commit a full day or a partial day. So do some thinking about that, and we can circle back around at the end during our announcements. So we don't need to have full conversation right now unless you want to dedicate the time, but I'd rather move to the full conversations that we have on the agenda, and then we can circle back to this if that works for everybody.
All right, sounds like a plan. All right, give me just a second. All right, so as I said at the start of the meeting, the Bureau of Environmental Services just opened their public comment period for stormwater management manual updates this week. Hopefully you were able to review a couple of the edits that were provided. And so please help me welcome BES staff Adrian, just to provide an update on proposed changes, as well as highlight some of those key issues for Pub, and that way we can determine whether we're interested in making any public comments.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I have a presentation to share, which I will get going right now. And yes, I know I am screen sharing. All right, so here's my presentation. Hello, everybody. My name is Adrienne Iona, and I manage the team at the Bureau of Environmental Services that updates our Bureau's codes and rules. As we just said, we are updating the Stormwater Management Manual and then the associated city code. The Stormwater Manual requires stormwater improvements for projects for development activities that construct or replace impervious area on property and in the right-of-way. It also protects drainage ways on private property. We have these requirements to comply with our regulatory requirements, to protect watershed health, and to meet our system needs. So we're making some kind of big policy changes. The kind of most significant one is increasing our applicability threshold from 500 square feet to 1,000 square feet. So that means projects that are adding or altering 1,000 square feet of impervious area will be required to comply with the manual. In the past, that threshold was 500, the current threshold is 500 square feet. And then we will apply that threshold to the project, not just the site. So, for example, for development permits, often if you're doing a series of like row houses next to each other. Those will be on separate tax lots, but they will come in as a group, as a full project. So we would apply it to all of those collectively instead of tax lot by tax lot. So based on 10 years of permit review data and SWIM implementation, we think this will decrease the number of building permit reviews required to comply with the Stormwater Manual by around 18%, while only decreasing the overall sort of aggregate impervious area managed by 1.8%. Did an updated analysis of that to look at how that would apply under kind of new development patterns, because we've made a lot of changes in our zoning code recently, residential infill, middle housing land divisions. And that data analysis showed us that really what this would do is like ADUs would no longer be required to comply with the SWIM, but applying that at the project scale would capture nearly all kind of full site new home developments. We also are changing some of our public works permit Green Street requirements. So these are requirements for constructing green streets in the right of way as part of development projects. So we will allow development in the UIC area, which is primarily in outer East Portland, to comply with the Stormwater Manual by building a UIC. We will no longer kind of, right, this basically aligns with current practice, but is not directly stated. And then we're going to expand the project types that are automatically eligible to pay the offsite management fee. So this is an in lieu fee for projects instead of constructing the asset, that they can pay a fee in lieu. And that will include now sidewalk and shoulder widening projects, any development project with 120 linear feet of frontage or less, or any development project in the combined system. Kind of the particular focus on having more development projects pay the offsite fee instead of constructing an asset is that those green streets tend to be kind of smaller than what we're building through capital projects. They're a little less efficient. They're isolated across the city, so maintenance of them is less efficient. And then they're built where development is happening, which is not necessarily in alignment with where our greatest system needs are. And so it's not, these smaller development projects are not the best way to prioritize and deliver public assets. Based on what we looked at some public works permit facility data and kind of estimated what the impact of these changes would be, and looked at our reduced maintenance costs per year and also the reduced numbers of facilities. And that's what that data shows there.
Adrienne?
Yeah.
Could you just clarify the UIC, is that underground?
Oh yeah,
underground control?
Yeah. Underground injection control.
Okay, thank you.
Other words that we use to talk about those facilities are dry wells or said sump systems.
Thank you.
Thanks. We have some process changes. We are going to be shifting operations and maintenance and drainage reserve notice of conditions recording responsibility from the applicant to the city for sites in Multnomah County. So when you're building a project, when you're building a stormwater facility on a private property, you're required to have an operations and maintenance plan, and you're required to have the record of that facility noted on the title of your property, on the deed of your property. And so right now, this process of reviewing this document and getting it recorded with the county requires a lot of handoffs between our permit applicants and our permit review staff. And this will save a significant amount of time in the permit process. We're also creating the authority for BES to require construction certifications from designers for sites where city staff cannot perform inspections. So when we have a kind of difficult site to access, an orifice at the bottom of a manhole that would require a confined space entry, we're coming up with a new way to verify that those facilities are constructed correctly. We are we're doing some kind of technical changes. We're going to be have a new water quality infiltration requirement. So we'll be requiring infiltration of the water quality storm event on sites that have at least ½ an inch per hour of infiltration and an offsite connection so they'll have to infiltrate the water quality design storm. This will apply in our separated storm systems, the upland separated storm systems that don't drain directly to the Willamette, the Columbia River, or the Columbia Slough. So this would be Tryon, Fano, and kind of these outer Johnson Creek areas. The goal of this change is to reduce hydromodification impacts, and those are impacts in our streams that cause stream erosion because the runoff patterns from developed areas are very different than forested areas, and it also will improve water quality in the streams. These technical changes will be based on we're developing a new regulatory map, identifying infiltration exclusion areas that are based on geologic conditions. Kind of some draft working version of that map is on this slide here. The purple area is the landslide hazard area, and then the red area is the 25% slope or greater. So those areas would be excluded. If you're within those mapped areas, you would not be required to determine if infiltration is feasible. If you're in the white areas, then we're going to ask you to investigate whether that's feasible on your site. We are updating the water quality design storm hyetograph, which is the kind of the design storm event that we use to do the engineering sizing for facilities. We're extending that from 24 hours to 36 hours, and that better matches historic rainfall records. Most of our design storms are the 24 hours, and they're conservatively designed to size pipes to manage, really intense peak flows so that they don't, so they have enough capacity to pass those. But our goals are different for water quality treatment. And so we're better matching that historic rainfall record, and this will help us more accurately size our facilities. We're also elevating the discharge pipe. You can see that in this facility detail here for infiltration facilities, and that will provide sort of additional storage at the bottom of that facility to give that water time to infiltrate into the ground. We also have a new soakage trench detail with an overflow connection, and a soakage trench is basically a underground rock gallery that allows for infiltration. And we're creating a new one that has an overflow connection so that it can be used to meet this requirement. Here's my last slide. This is our adoption and review schedule. I don't know if we want to do a question now or at the end. Okay.
I can wait. I can wait till the end.
Sounds good. So here's our adoption review schedule. The public comment opened on Monday. Public comment closes on August 19th. And we have info sessions. The first one is this afternoon, and then we have a second one next week. We'll be taking the related code updates to City Council on July 31st. The code updates are very minor. We're going to be removing that 500 square foot threshold language from the code and just relying on the stormwater manual for that. And then most of the other updates are matching language in the code to other code language that we have in other chapters that have been adopted for things like enforcement and for certain definitions. All of these will go into effect on October 1st this year, and there'll be a 3-month grace period. So projects will officially be required to comply with the new manual starting on January 1st of 2025. And then here's the kind of version applicability vesting schedule, which kind of varies depending on the project type. Let me double check that this is my last slide. Yep, that's my last slide. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'm happy to take questions if we've got time.
Hey, Adrian, this is Lauren. I'm a
Hi.
board member. Thanks for being here and going through this. This is really interesting. And you feel like you mostly answered this on this last slide. And forgive me, I've been having like technical difficulties with the computer, so I apologize if you answered this, but so I guess how is this going to apply to existing facilities, right? Like, so it seems like these technical infiltration rates and your new discharge pipes, like, oh my God, see, sorry, my computer, okay. My monitors keep cutting out and I can't tell if like I'm cutting out or anyway. So you're giving a grace period so that existing facilities can come up to date. Am I understanding that correctly?
So if you've already built a facility and it complied with a prior version of the manual, you do not have to do anything with that
I see.
facility. The grace period is to acknowledge the fact that when you're doing an engineering design for a project, that takes a long time. And
Right,
so if the new standards aren't available until October 1st,
right.
you've been working on that design before. You don't have to like suddenly like redo the whole thing just because you wanted to file for permits on October 2nd.
Okay, cool. So I was about to say, I've submitted a stormwater management plan recently and I was like, oh no, like for my personal.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
No, good question.
Bob, did you have a question?
Yeah, can you talk a little more about lifting the 500-foot threshold? Just to understand that a
Yeah.
little bit better.
Yeah. What do you have any specific questions, or are you just wondering about the reasoning behind it?
About the reasoning, but also the ecological and environmental implications of that.
Yeah. So we did a big memo analyzing that a few years ago that I'm happy to share with you that has more of that, more of the meat behind that. But really the question is, right, what's the level of effort that the city and the public are putting into meeting this requirement? We were able to relook at it for this version of the manual because that threshold was increased from 500 to 1,000 square feet in our most recent MS4 permit. Prior to that, it was 500 square feet, and so we were held to that. Other jurisdictions in the area, 1,000 square feet is very common across Oregon and I think, other places in the country. Really, those projects that are between 500 and 1,000 square feet are often, small remodels of, a commercial site having to install an ADA ramp or a residential property making an addition. So these tend to be much smaller projects. They often are not a full lot development. So the technical requirements of complying with the SWIM are very challenging. From an ecological standpoint, what this does is it reduces the rate of growth for how quickly we are providing stormwater management for impervious surfaces in the city, but it's not, I feel like that really, to me, that 18% of permits and 1.8% of the impervious area, it's really about focusing our efforts on stormwater management on those larger projects that are having the biggest impact, and having our permit review staff time better able to focus on those projects, and our ongoing maintenance inspection program staff time to be able to focus on those larger projects as well. And then also with all of the, push for housing and permit improvement, permit efficiency perspective, I think that's another key driver in revisiting that threshold.
So I appreciate the response. If I can just follow up with a comment. It concerns me tremendously, both when you did it in the MS4 permit and now that it's being implemented in the SWIM. I think that this is what I'm talking about. The public's heard me say this before when I'm talking about the rollback of environmental regulations. It's gradual, it's incremental. Each one is presented as not a big deal, but what we're slowly doing is eroding the city's leadership, and it was a leader, I don't think it is anymore, on urban stormwater, urban ecology. And each one of these things may not be devastating in and of themselves, but I think we need to be honest about what we're doing here. We're rolling back protections for the environment. We're doing it largely at the behest of developers who don't want to do this kind of work. It kind of all makes sense until you actually think about what we're actually doing. And we're also continuing to hear this argument that because we want housing, we can't afford to protect the environment. We're hearing it all over the place because you're going to hear the same arguments around trees. You're going to hear the same arguments around green roofs. You already have. And each one of these things that Portland was an international leader on a decade ago is being shrunk over and over and over again. And oftentimes with the idea that, well, it's just not a big deal. It's actually a really big deal. And I think this is, from my perspective, basically nothing more than a capitulation to development interests who don't want to pay for their impacts on the environment. Kind of end of story. And again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Lauren, but I really think this is indicative of what we're seeing across all of the green stormwater programs these days.
I appreciate that point, Bob, and I definitely appreciate your continued engagement on this and your thoughts on that topic.
Thank you, Bob, for bringing that to a holistic perspective. And let's give Lorraine the floor, followed by Karen.
Actually, it's Karen, then Lorraine. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
It's Karen, yeah. Karen.
Okay, sure, Lorraine. I'll take you up on that just because my comments are or question and comment is very related to what Bob just said. So, so ditto to Bob's comments. Thank you, Bob. Sorry, this is Karen Williams, voting member speaking. And my question is about, actually two questions, sorry, but about that 1.8%. I'd like to know if there was any water quality modeling to show the effects of that reduction in stormwater management. I'd like to know like what that 1.8% equates to in terms of square feet, square miles, acres, and then if there was any modeling to show what the water quality effects of that will be. And I can take that answer offline. I don't need the answer right now. And related question on the reduction in the Green Street, the small facilities that that you had mentioned. I'd like to know how the offsite fee, I guess it's called, how that will be applied to building, more cohesive or larger or more effective, or just how what is the overall environmental benefit to reducing the building of the smaller facilities? What's the benefit of then directing those? How are those funds being directed, and what's the environmental benefit of directing them to presumably larger scale projects?
Yeah, so I'm happy to share the analysis memo that the Bureau put together, evaluating the 1,000 versus 500 square foot threshold. I'm happy to share that with Pub, and there's some kind of discussion about the ecological impacts in that. And then on the offsite fee question, our offsite fees they fund the 1% for Green program. And the 1% for Green program is a grant program that is available to the community and the city for installing stormwater improvements that are above and beyond those that would be required by development. So, for example, right now, some of the projects that are being funded by that are looking at putting street trees in the parking lane in Outer East Portland. That's a joint Parks and PBOT project, and BES is also involved in that. And then also we're funding some school improvements for providing stormwater management at school properties, and we also funded the new zoo entrance. Parks was able to treat an additional, I don't manage this program, so I don't remember exactly how much, but it was over an acre, multiple acres of impervious area in that parking lot for the zoo and forestry center, in their new entrance road stormwater facility, with contributions from the Percent for Green program, because that additional area drained to that facility. They had room for it, but it was beyond what was required for that project in particular. So those are the kinds of projects that money goes to.
All right, Lorraine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Lorraine Wilson, voting member, Bob. Adrian.
Yeah.
I'm just curious here, and I appreciate the questions that both Bob and Karen asked. But when I see that the city has comment, they're saying, hey, the comment period is open from this time to that time, right? That is based on the public knowing what is going on, understanding what is going on so that they can come. So if there is someone, resident of Portland, who is hearing all this information, moi, and I'm like, okay, I sit and I watch rainfall. If it's a tropical downpour, I know what that looks like. Unlike a rainfall here in Oregon, which is slower. And I'm like, what does this 500 feet mean? How does this impact me? How does this affect me as someone living, both environmentally, fiscally, and all the other things? As someone who is either a renter, own a property, or something like that. Why would I want to comment on this? Because based on what you just shared, and I appreciate it, it's a lot of technical information.
Mm-hmm.
And as POB, we are here as representatives of community. And I think I'm a good representation of someone who is uninformed. And when these technical terms are thrown out, I'm like, okay, what does that mean to me? And if I can't understand it as a POB member, why would someone who is working 2 jobs, hustling, doing whatever they need to do, take the time to comment on this to say, okay, this is how this is going to impact me, or here is something that I should say in support of this or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will say that the most engaged parts of the public in the Stormwater Manual review and comment period are the environmental activists that follow stormwater management in Portland, and the civil design engineers who are regularly using the Stormwater Manual as engineering design guidance for their project designs. So a lot of those, like, people who have that that technical experience can help us look at, do these engineering design details work? Do these assumptions make sense? From a general public standpoint, the Stormwater Manual would impact if you own a property and you want to make improvements or do development on that property as a homeowner. So that's something that it could potentially impact a more kind of individual in the city. And then as a resident of the city of Portland, these stormwater requirements impact kind of development patterns, what kinds of stormwater facilities are included in a development project that you might be a neighbor to, or in a multi-dwelling development that you might be living in. And then also the stormwater requirements help protect our city stormwater systems. So locally, they can help prevent basement sewer backups in the combined sewer system. They can help proper management of stormwater in outer East Portland, and everywhere else in the city can help reduce nuisance flooding in streets. And then for the areas of the city that drain to surface water bodies, the stormwater requirements help improve water quality for the water that is discharging to those streams, and then help mitigate the kind of the flashiness of urban flows to help kind of manage, like protect streams from kind of too high flows, and to maybe sometimes make some difference in kind of smaller local stream flooding. So those are the community impacts that I think are the most relevant for the stormwater requirements. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Bob, do you have another question?
Are you sure about the volume? No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, great,
Down my hand.
thanks.
All right, I'm not seeing any more hand raises. Adrian, can you pull up that last slide just to give us the timeline that we're looking at if we decide that we want to make an individual comment, or if we want to make a group comment?
Yeah, here it is. So the public comment period closes on August 19th. And I think the website, I think, was in the email notification that got sent to you. If it isn't, I've been sending out a lot of briefing materials, and anyway, I just not entirely certain. So if it isn't, then I can get that to Amy and she can send it to you. But all the material is available on our public comment website.
And do you by chance know what time the info session is today?
I should know. It's my third presentation of the day, but I'm going to have to look at my calendar.
I have it pulled up. It's 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. today.
Thank you so
Oh, for
much,
sure.
Kyle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm just following along.
All right, so it looks like we've got a couple of info sessions to get further informed if we'd like to, and we have about a month to make a public comment if we so choose. So I just want to thank you, Adrian, for coming before us, giving us the background information, and all of the pub members for their comments and concerns.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your guys' time and attention.
All right, so with that, I think we have one last agenda item, which is finishing up our values, principles, and anti-racist statement that we had started last meeting, and we wanted to get everyone, as many pub members available in order to do the final review, edit, and approve. And so I believe the edits were sent, as well as an extra document, educational document, giving us a background on white supremacy. So thank you for adding that additional information. And I believe we currently have most of the document itself is not being edited, but we wanted to add specific intention and be active when it comes to our investments in educating ourselves and being knowledgeable in the values that we have. And that way they are not passive values, but they're active values. And Amy has on the screen, looks like, I'm not sure if this was voted upon or just most popular, was to make it specifically a bullet point rather than an intro to the conversation. And so I was personally, I'm favorable to having it being an explicit bullet point. And so, Amy, did you have any background you wanted to say before we kind of put it to the floor?
No, so this was not voted on. So this was just, pulling from the discussion and the way that it ended at the last meeting, as I was just trying to take the words that were stated. I think Karen, started the conversation and some others added to it as I tried to fit it into the existing language. It fitted either as an introduction or as a bullet point. And so I had sent the draft language to Karen and Robin and asked for some feedback. And so this was the version that I sent out to pub members. And then the changes that are highlighted in yellow are just, the reason they're highlighted in yellow is because those are the changes since the version that you received in your read ahead materials, because I received some feedback from one pub member with some suggested edits from the version that I had originally sent. So none of this has been discussed yet by the full pub. This was just drafted based on the discussion that took place in pub. So it's open for discussion and edits and can be further edited or revised based on your discussion. Karen, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Karen Williams, voting member. So Amy, thank you. I really like how you pulled together our discussion and comments from a few weeks ago. I like the words, I like the organization, and I like the as Robin had said, like, calling it out explicitly as a bullet point, or anyway, as a point. I also like the edits that are shown in yellow highlight. And I would only suggest that in the interest of making the just the wording or in the concepts maybe accessible to folks, all folks that may be at different levels of understanding and education around characteristics of white supremacy culture, that we might want to do like a parenthetical and say, for example, efficiency. I mean, efficiency is one of 13 or 14 sort of maybe commonly talked about characteristics of white supremacy culture, but yeah. So, but I totally support the edits. I think this is really nicely done. I wanted to say thank you, yeah, to all for pulling this together. And I support it. Thank you.
Joanne.
Hi, everybody. Building off what Karen was saying, I was thinking something similar. Something we could consider is adding the link to the resource that was provided to us, just right after that paragraph in the document.
So I saw some thumbs up for the link. Karen, does the link address sufficiently your desire, or do you feel the need for some specific language as well as the link?
Um, I'm fine with providing a link.
I was
Again, I'm just thinking in terms of access. I don't know. I mean, it's just as a standalone document, I would like it to be as clear and accessible as possible. I certainly don't object to including a link. I think a value of the link is attribution, because I wouldn't want it to appear that like Hub as a body sort of came up with these characteristics of white supremacy culture. Other scholars and activists and so forth have put this together. So I'd want to make sure that we are attributing our reference appropriately, and having a link allows that to be done. So yeah, we could get into footnotes and references and all of that, but I don't want to overly complicate it.
this is Joanne. I was thinking both. Because not everybody will click on the link. So I wasn't meaning to contradict your suggestion, Karen. I meant to add to it.
Okay, got it. Any other comments or edits, or how are people feeling with the draft as it stands?
This is Robin. Just the last sentence of the red line of the red edits. Part of me feels like it reads correctly, and I understand that the second half of the sentence is referring to the first two sentences and a half. But when I first read it, I was almost confused because I thought that the second half of that sentence, we're saying we will not succumb to white supremacy culture, but that we will ensure outcomes align with these principles. And I wasn't sure if anyone else was kind of confused as to if that sentence made it sound like we were referring to the principles of white supremacy culture, or if we were referring to the principles that we had stated in the sentences leading up to that last sentence.
So maybe correcting it to say our values and anti-racist principles, or something that makes it clear.
That was kind of where I was at, thinking it maybe needed specifically to say anti-racist principles.
Yes, good clarification. All right. So do people need more time, or I think there were no other changes. The rest of the document remains intact as it has previously. So that was the major change, was in that section. So folks are comfortable with where it's at. I could go back to the slides, or we can entertain a motion from somebody in the group. But I don't want to move anybody faster than you want to move. So let me know when you're ready.
This is Robin Castro. I move that we accept the new edits to this document and accept it as our final updated principles and value statement.
This is Alexis Wright, voting member. I second.
Does it go discussion or public comment on that one?
It goes to discussion if there's any left, and then public comment.
This is Robin. My discussion would just be related to, I believe it was Karen and Joanne. Was there an interest in listing a couple examples when it comes to, for example, efficiency, comma, something else, and then linking it? Or was the plan just to put one example and then link the read ahead material?
If it would help, I can pull up. I did prepare the link, so let me pull that up. Which actually, I think the word efficiency is not one of the words in here. Sense of urgency is. Perhaps the closest one.
This is Robin. It might be of value to list right to comfort as one of the examples. I know that this board has come up against this specific tenant, as we had discussed how openly we should speak to the mayor, and it was suggested at the time, like, well, we don't want them to feel attacked, and it was rightfully pushed back that they are in a position of power and it is our job to hold them accountable. And so that could be just one option that we've specifically navigated as a board recently.
So if that's proposed as an amendment, then is whoever seconded accept that as an amendment as well?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right. So any other discussion before we move to public comment? All right, we will open the floor for public comment. All right, I'm not seeing any requests, so let's call the roll. We'll start with Robin.
This is Robin Castro, voting member. I vote aye.
This is Chris Richard, voting member. I vote aye.
Karen Williams, voting member. Yes.
Lauren Rosencrans, voting member. I vote aye.
Kyle Chipman, voting member. I vote aye.
Bob Salinger,
Mally
voting member.
Hawkshaw. Sorry, Mally Hawkshaw is voting member, voting aye.
Bob Salinger, voting member, aye.
Lauren Wilson, voting member, aye.
Julia DeGraw, voting member. I also vote yes.
Alexis Rife, voting member, and I also vote yes.
All right, I think that was everybody, correct? I think our numbers got a little bit out of line, but I think that was everybody. So motion passes. Thank you. All right.
And yes, thank you all for voting for that. And for future reference, I think Amy numbers all of us, and that way it's a little bit smoother during that process. And I guess we didn't quite preface to tell you why everyone is numbered, but that just makes moments like this a little bit smoother, and that way we can always guarantee that everyone has a vote. So thank you all.
All right, give me just a moment and I will pull our presentation back up. All right, so it looks like there is a natural resources service delivery work session August 1st. I know that Bob has been a main staple of that, as well as rotating myself, Julia, and Karen. Bob or anyone else specifically involved, do you have any just updates since our most recent update? And Bob, I'll open the floor to you. I did touch base with staff, so I did get a brief update from them just about the work session, so I can give an update related to that and just an offer for an update from staff to Pub. So I can give an update on that, but if you want to start, then I can add to that as well.
I'd love to hear your update because I don't really have one. It seems to have kind of stalled out, at least
Okay.
the stakeholder process. I don't know if I'm going to be there on August 1st, but I will try to be there.
Okay, so the update that I received from staff was that their current push internally has been that they're preparing for the work session with the city administrator and the deputy city administrators for public works, vibrant communities, and the community and economic development, plus the directors for parks, BES, Water Bureau, PBOT, and planning and sustainability. So that's on August 1st. So my understanding is that the focus is seeking some direction on implementation of the work plan and understanding who's responsible and accountable for doing which components of it. And so that will happen before Pub's next meeting, which is on August 6th. So the BES director, Dawn, and Shayna from BES would be available at our next meeting to give an update. Might be timely since the work session will have happened and they'll have new information from that to dedicate some time at the next meeting to get an update and kind of find out kind of what the outcomes are from that work session and where the project team is kind of moving from there. So that I think is kind of the next key step. So if agenda allows and Pub is interested, then they are available for that.
Do you have any sense of what the role of the committee is in that work session? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone else who's on this, Julia, Robin, because I can't recall hearing anything from them in a long time. Julia, have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything, but I'm going to be totally honest, that was starting a new job and time off and things. I've not been like, glued to my notifications.
Or Robin?
The only thing I've seen was just an update, but that was at least a couple of weeks ago, but it's been pretty quiet.
I can
Yeah.
reach out to Shayna, and I'm sure have her connect with you, Bob, and Loop about the work session. I'm not sure that there is a role at the work session. I don't know that the project team has convened, or you all would have heard about it. So because they have engaged you all when that team has convened. So no, I don't think that Don is in the room. Don was here earlier, but I think had to leave for another conflicting meeting. So otherwise she would probably speak up. But we can touch base with them, and I'll loop back with the group of you and touch base. So I'll follow up and see if we can connect and find out next steps.
Yeah, and just to clarify, it looks like I got like a work plan and a task list at the end of May. So it's definitely been about 2 months since I've heard anything related to the project.
Yeah, I mean, that's my sense as well. And I appreciate you reaching out to Don, but again, and I'm sorry to be a little broken record on this, but it's very, very frustrating to participate in these processes. There's a continuing challenge of getting information after the fact, and cursory at best involvement in decision making. For those of us that have participated in this, we went to several meetings. We devoted time to reading materials, and then it went radio silent. And now they're seeking input from a whole new cast of characters. Frankly, this whole thing was because the process had went off the rails in the first place, and the natural resource unit got taken out of the plan so it could have more process. Those of us that have engaged in it have done so in good faith, and it feels like it's going off the rails again to me a little bit. We haven't been communicated with. We're having a work session where they're going to seek input on what direction we go. We're not involved with that or even apprised of it until I think this morning. So to me right now, this is a pretty big miss again.
Yeah, understood.
And I say that with a caveat that maybe all three of us are missing something, which is possible, but improbable. And I think if all three of us are missing it, it probably means that the communication wasn't adequate. It's one thing for one of us, but not for all three. But I will put that caveat on there that maybe we didn't pay enough attention, but it worries me a lot that we're going into a work session with a whole lot of political folks that honestly couldn't put it. The reason we had this whole task force was because the leadership couldn't come together over a solution in the first place. So we put together a task force and asked them to come together on it. And now it seems like it's going back to leadership without any sort of body of information developed by that task force to necessarily inform it at this point. Maybe that's there too. But again, I haven't seen that. So I don't mean to belabor it, but it feels very weird. If you want stakeholders to stay involved in a process, we should be apprised of these kinds of incremental steps and how we can engage with them.
This is Julia. I just want to second everything that Bob just said. Thank you for that, Bob.
Yeah, I don't believe there have been any communications, because generally they have copied me or at least made me aware if there have been any scheduled meetings, and I'm not aware of any. So because generally I've tried to connect with you all to at least find out who the representative has been. So I believe that part of it is the timing and the transition with the leadership changeover as of July 1st, and that the key stakeholders are have been stretched thin, and so I suspect that to some degree that has had an impact. So I'll find out if there's any specific work products or any materials that are available. I'm not aware of any currently. So that verbal update is really all the information that I have, and that's just what was provided to me. So that's what I have to share, but I'll let you know if there's anything else to share before the August 1st. Otherwise, the next update is what we would have available following the work session. So I'll keep you posted.
So with Amy, with the field trip option, are you able to send out like a doodle poll, just because we only have a couple minutes left, on what day in September is best?
Yeah, so the only piece that, and I can do a doodle poll for the other piece of elements as well. The only piece that I wasn't sure if there would be any value is if there was any discussion that was relevant related to the value of full day versus partial day, as far as interest of the group. So, but I will do a survey, and then we can have some discussion at the next meeting if appropriate, if there's any sort of wide variation and there's discussion that needs to happen. But it's likely that it would be in September, just because those dates seem to be the most flexible, particularly with travel and availability of folks. So that seems to be what is most likely at this point. Julia, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just want to say I'm kind of figuring out with my work that a full day is actually maybe not the worst idea, because like if it's a partial day between traveling to this site, doing the thing, coming home from the site, realistically you kind of shot your work day. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like it's a little bit easier for me personally if I just say, this is a day that is committed to pub, rather than trying to cram it in and pretend like it's, like I'm trying to also do work on top of it. So anyway, I think I'm not at all opposed to the idea of a full day trip to Bull Run. It's a really special experience. That said, there's at least one retreat that is not booked yet that I'm supposed to be attending in September. So hopefully that will be booked soon. So I'll be able to be real about my availability. But anyway, I just want to say, at least for my capacity, it doesn't really make a difference if it's a full day or half a day in terms of whether or not I can make it. And a full day actually might be preferable.
Okay, great. Then I will do a doodle poll and get feedback about availability on those dates. Oh, Chris, I didn't mean to lower your hand. I meant to ask you to speak up.
It's all good. I was just going to agree. Yeah, a full day would be better. And with union negotiations with the city right now, Tuesdays I am not available, or it would be extremely difficult. But any other day I should be able to make work.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you to folks who have volunteered for administrative review committees. We've got some dates filled up, so just October and November are vacant. Also just wanted to give a plug on the engagement survey that I sent out. I heard that they've only had about 60 responses total as of the other day. So if you have not completed it, just sometime in the next month, please take some time to do it. I think the feedback from you all would be very valuable. That's just on engagement, and they specifically they were seeking feedback from advisory board members. I will send it back out to you just to make sure that you have the link. So if you have not completed it, just encourage you to do so. And nope, I did not update the slide, so apologies for that. August is our upcoming meetings, and I failed to update the slides that we have. So the updates on natural resources is one of the priorities, as well as rate study implementation coming up in August and or September. And we have a leadership planning meeting scheduled for later this week. So we will have more updates on upcoming priorities for the coming months, and doing some discussion for kind of budget planning for the coming months as well. So hopefully we'll have some more priorities on our list soon. Anything else for the good of the order before we finish? Karen.
Thanks, Amy. Karen Williams. All I was going to suggest is maybe adding to our potential agenda items. It sounds like we may have some makings of some comments on the new stormwater annual changes. So we may want, it seems like we have plenty of time to put those together. So I'd like to talk more forward if we want to go ahead and try and pull something together. Thanks.
Yeah, we would definitely want to do that at the August 6th meeting as well, so that we'd have time to finalize that before the August 19th deadline. So I'll put that as a priority for that meeting as well. Thank you. All right.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle Chipman. This is something quick, and it's something I'm just doing for myself. I'm just kind of, as I prepare for meetings and also listen in on meetings, I'm just preparing like big whiteboard of the calls. I don't know if it's helpful to share it out, or if people are like interested in using this as a resource, but it's just basically building off the agenda and then pulling together resources and documents and taking notes. So I can chat about this with Amy, or if I just want to get it on people's radar. This is just how I kind of think and how I'm going to be approaching these meetings in my own preparation. So I'm happy to share the resources if it's valuable for folks. They can be password protected, and like we can kind of lock it down. So just offering.
I would be interested.
Very interested.
Ah, cool. Yeah, sweet. I hope so. So it's like, I'm going to be doing it regardless. So I'm happy to like structure it and make it something that's accessible and even collaborative, or however we want to approach it.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So with that, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.